You're listening to the Verdigris podcast with Rae and Andi. I'm Andi.
And I'm Rae.
And we have a website. It's verdigrispodcast.org. We are also on Instagram and on Facebook. And we also have merch. So if you'd like to get any of the little extras or the merch, please check out verdigrispodcast.org.
Hi, Andi.
Hi, Rae.
Happy spooky season.
It is the best season. Okay, listen, I love all times of the year. That's not true. I don't love all times of the year. But October is my favorite month. Is the best time. It's got good food. It's got sweater weather.
Yay.
It's got soup. I'm a fan of soup and baked goods.
Fan.
Yeah. It has candy, obviously. It has my sister's birthday. Hi, Julia. It has all of the good things.
Leaves.
Crunchy leaves, some nice brisk weather.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite time of year. So we're going to celebrate it this year. Now, last year we celebrated it looking at some of my favorite stuff, i.e. gravestones. And I'm saying this entirely unironically, as you well know. So gravestones. But this year we're going to talk about another thing that I think we both actually really like, which is haunted houses.
Yeah. I like gravestones as well. Probably not as much as you do, but I think I like haunted houses maybe equally or more. Yeah.
Equally or more.
Yeah.
That's fair. I wish I had a spooky audio to add to this. Ooh. Thanks. I did record an audio postcard for you last time I was at a cemetery, which I'm sure you will post on social media for our listeners. That's at Verdigris Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. While I was recording in the graveyard, the bells tolled, and it just sounded badass. It was awesome. But I don't have any instruments in this podcasting booth in which to record, unfortunately. So I can't do that right now. That's my bad. So listeners, just add your favorite spooky music in the background.
And some wind. I feel like wind is
good.
Wind
is good. Crunchy leaves.
Yeah. Me blowing on a cup of hot cocoa.
That sounds nice. Maybe can you smell the fire? And the leaves and the yeah. I'm so ready. Okay, so today we're talking about haunted houses, which are the house of October. If each month had a house, right, it would be gingerbread for December. It would be, I don't know, an igloo for January, and it would be a haunted house for October.
I think we should do this as a calendar.
Oh man, I think we do. Okay, that's the next project on the to-do list. We, dear listeners, did not really prepare for this podcast today. This is all you need. You need 2 microphones, 2 people willing to chat, and an idea.
This was why we started the podcast, because we just like to kind of bat around ideas. So the hardest part was not talking about it beforehand.
Okay, so I'm going to start by asking you a question.
All right.
And then I'm going to follow it up with another question.
Are you going to wait for me to answer it, or are you just going to ask questions?
I mean, we know me. I'm a terrible interrupter, but I will try not to interrupt you. Ready? Here we go. What is the most haunted house style?
Second Empire. That was easy.
So this is the response that I had, by the way. So if you can read it on my piece of paper.
It's Second Empire.
It's Second Empire. What is the most haunted house style, and why is it Second Empire? I think is the whole question.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And for those of you who don't know what a Second Empire house looks like just generically, let's talk about that, right? So generally speaking, there are at least 2 stories. Sometimes they have a 3rd story. The key is they have those crazy mansard roofs. So a mansard roof is basically the roof kind of wraps down the walls, and it can be concave or convex, but like the shingles come all the way down almost to an entire floor. And I always say it kind of looks like somebody has pulled their knit cap down and just cut holes in it.
Like in Fat Albert.
Yeah, exactly. Mushmouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many people will get that reference. That's why I didn't say it. That's the image that's in my head, though. Anyway, so that's what I think of. I also kind of think of mushrooms, right? Like it's got a big, so the whole point of the mansard roof is that, it puts an entire story underneath a roof, and so you can kind of build taller, but it makes it look a little bit shorter, and you can have all these multiple complex roofs. You have these towers and that kind of thing, and there's some other details, but really, I think it's the tall, thin with the mansard roof that makes it spooky.
And if you don't know, dear listeners, why a mansard roof and Second Empire are taken together, it's because the mansard roof is really what makes the Second Empire Second Empire. So let's go back to what that style is.
Yeah.
That style is called Second Empire after the Second Empire in France. That is very confusingly under Napoleon III. So it's the Second Empire, but it's Napoleon III. There's no Napoleon II. Napoleon III was Napoleon's, I want to say, grandson and nephew or something. Nobility. They like to, mess around. So point is, there was the First Empire under Napoleon I. That was in about 1803 to 1815. Technically, I think he was still first consul in 1803. It doesn't matter. And then
this is all you. I'm just I'm just the buildings person.
And then the Napoleon III was emperor in the 1850s to 1870, just about. And he was like his grandfather / uncle or whatever, except in addition to being despotic, he was not a megalomaniac. So as a result...
Imagine that.
Right?
How does that work?
Well, he was in power a lot, for a longer time. And he did a lot more to redesign France, especially Paris. And this is when Paris became the city we know today, with the architecture we know today, with the roof lines we know today. And those roofs are called mansard roofs after a French guy. It's an eponym, mansard. And the idea of those roofs is that there is more room to stand up in upstairs so that you can use that space under the roof. Now, mind you, you wouldn't use that space for, if you're the owner of the house, if you're the fancy person, you're not going to be hanging out under the roof, right? Under the roof is going to be really for the help, basically, right? So if you're somebody's maid, probably your room's going to be in the mansard. If you're
a
staff.
Kid. Yeah.
And maybe a kid if it's a house as opposed to an apartment. Yeah. Yes. But anyway, that style of architecture came to America right around that same timeline. So about 1860s, 1870s, so Victorian era, which is also the spookiest era. We'll come back to that. And so what makes a building Second Empire, though, as opposed to some other style from that time period, like Italianate or like High Victorian Gothic, is the roof. It is that mansard roof that really makes it particularly Second Empire and not something else. And the thing is, even if people don't think they know what Second Empire looks like, they'll probably say Victorian and they won't say Second Empire.
Right, yeah.
But really what they mean is Second Empire.
Yeah.
So,
and I would say, it comes to the United States, and it's certainly an aesthetic movement, and people are interested in aesthetically. But I always say you have to think about the American culture, and we love things that save us a little money. It's expediency, right? Mm-hmm. And it's less expensive for roofing materials than it is for cladding or the siding that you put on a building. So basically, you have a little bit less money in order to make a mansard roof, even though it's super fancy and it's got this crazy framing. It has shingles on it instead of other materials. And I really think that that's part of the reason. So in the United States, we put it on, this is not spooky, but we put it on all kinds of government buildings.
Every kind of government building.
I mean, like...
city halls a lot.
Oh, tons of city halls and courthouses and, I mean, just kind of everywhere for a
post
long
offices.
Time. Oh, yeah, post offices.
That old post office in New York City, that one was a crazy one. Have you ever seen that one?
I don't know if
I'm going to pull it up while we keep talking.
Yay, we have pictures. So I always think of, actually, if listeners can picture the City Hall in Philadelphia. So it is an absolutely massive mansard roof structure, Second Empire, with like a bunch of small roofs going on to create it. So it's a huge building. Oh, yeah. Wow.
I just showed Rae the old post office in New York. It's been demolished, so it doesn't exist anymore. But it was like on a corner, and it was just this massive looking building. And it's just like, heavy and ornate, and it's just got an absolutely enormous mansard roof on top.
This mansard roof, I will be honest, looks like it's definitely 2 stories. It might be 3. It's huge. It's huge.
It's got a Palladian window inside it that's bigger than a bus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. Wow.
By the way, listeners, we will, of course, as always, have pictures on the website. So don't worry if you can't follow along with what we're saying. Please check out the website, which will have all the details. Also, our social media will have lots of these photos, lots of spooky photos for you to look at. I was
going to say, I'll even throw in some of the photos of the government buildings and stuff. I'll look online for good photos.
So I just Googled haunted house and I pulled out some of the first houses that came out. The first one is actually, it looks like it's more of a model. It's not a real house, but it's definitely got that tower, that Second Empire mansard roof tower, but it's just a hodgepodge of different styles, really. It doesn't really fit within the Second Empire style exactly. What it does have, though, is that it looks like the gaping maw of a monster. And that brings me to the other thing that we see a lot with these haunted houses. And I don't know how to pronounce this word, so I'm probably going to massacre it. But it's pareidolia.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
So pareidolia has an actual definition. Let me
Something
look it up.
With teeth?
So pareidolia is the tendency for perception to impose a meaningful interpretation on a nebulous stimulus, usually visual, so that one detects an object pattern or meaning. And very often it is trying to see a face when there is no face on a thing. And you can see that all the time where, it'll be an object, but it kind of vaguely looks like a face. And so people will think, oh, that's in this case, a gaping maw of a monster.
Yeah.
And there's certainly examples of architecture where you look at the building and you're like,
eyebrow dormers. I'm sorry.
Mean, literally,
they are eyeballs.
they're literally called eyebrow dormers. I mean, you can't ask for better. So, I think buildings definitely look like that because windows are the eyes and the door is the mouth. And so you can very easily make a house look welcoming or demonic. It's not hard.
Yes. And this one that I'm looking at, it definitely looks pretty scary.
The second one that I found is like picture perfect Second Empire American version. So in the French version, it definitely leans more classical. French architecture isn't known for, Gothic stuff past the Middle Ages. But in the U.S., Second Empire definitely, takes on a lot more of that Victorian aspect, which I perhaps oversimplify in my classes by saying it's just dark and pointy.
Well, that actually brings up one of the aspects of these houses, I think, that leads to that feeling that they feel a little haunted. So a lot of them, in order to emphasize the roof lines, kind of draw your eye up there, they have what we call iron cresting. And so they have like decorative ironwork that sometimes it's like the top of an iron fence, but around the top of the roof, right? So it has spikes on the roof.
Right. So it's kind of the counterpoint of a balustrade on a classical building, right?
Yeah.
Which will be usually made of stone, sometimes wood, and usually painted white. And in this case, it's the opposite. It's pointy and it's dark, usually painted black, and it's metal, and it looks really deadly.
Yeah, and it's thin, right? Like a balustrade
spindly.
is usually chunky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So really, it's just, you think of that classical Gothic dichotomy, and it's just, you just dial up the Gothic like way, way up. It's pointy, and in the case of the image that I found, again, on Google, I didn't do anything complicated here. It's also really dark. There's like a huge moon hanging behind it, and the siding is really dark, and the roof is really dark, and you can see that the windows are lit, but you can't see what's inside, which of course makes it look spookier. And so it succeeds as a spooky building, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I think, because we see them as spooky, when you Google them, you never see them during the day. They're less scary during the day, right? Like if the sun was shining or whatever.
And I think this is why, even though there are other styles from the Victorian era that are much more, Gothic in a lot of ways. I mean, in particular, the Queen Anne style, which is, it's asymmetrical, it's vertical, it's got lots of details. but we don't associate that with horror movie or haunting or anything. Why? Because they're painted bubblegum pink.
Or purple.
Or
That's
purple.
my favorite.
Or yellow. Or, baby blue.
Yeah.
But, you look at a building and you look at it in those pretty colors and you're like, aw, whereas you look at Second Empire and it's painted like, rust red and dark brown and you're like, oh.
If it's painted. The other thing too, I know I talk to my students about this, is a lot of, in that classical kind of iteration in France, they tend to be lighter stone if they're made out of stone. Yep. Well, in the United States, we're like, hey, we have all this cool red sandstone. Why not use that? Or, we have all kinds of like deep, dark tones. And so they just look more foreboding.
Exactly, right? In France, they're mostly made of limestone. That's what Paris is made of. So when you think of Paris, it's very beige because that's the stone they have. And so immediately it looks a lot less creepy when it's, a much lighter color than when it's this dark, foreboding color where you really think, shadows are hiding and whatever. Here's another one I found. And I really like this one because this one is Queen Anne. And this one is super creepy. And so why is it creepy?
Oh, this is easy. Okay, it is creepy because when I started sort of my list of what I wanted to talk about, I was like, well, any house, like any style, any house can look haunted when it looks abandoned or uncared for, right? And so if the wood is deteriorating, if the windows are broken, especially if they have like a curtain that's kind of flying out of one of the windows, like really needs a good paint job, there's like a column or a post that needs to be repaired, like all of those things kind of say, well, nobody in this realm is inhabiting it, right? This is just ghosts and ghoulies and things, at least in my mind.
Right. And so if you go inside one of those houses, first of all, the electricity is not going to work.
Right.
Second of all, you're going to hear sounds in the house, and those are not man-made sounds. Those are sounds made by something or someone else. And so it's going to get really scary really fast.
It's also, so I love nature. We have established that, but there's always cobwebs in there too. And like cobwebs where that the spider is like bigger than your head, right? Because it's like, they're so big. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you're thinking like, at best, lead poisoning, at worst, deadly spider.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Lead poisoning at least will take a while.
Exactly. It'll be delicious.
Yeah.
Don't eat lead, you guys. That was a joke. Okay. Don't eat lead. It's sweet, but don't eat it. So yeah, in this case, this Queen Anne house is creepy because it hasn't been painted. Also, the sky is like dark and foreboding. And also there's like old plywood and looks like black mold. And it just looks like you can't see inside. And so, if you scream in there, who will hear you?
Yeah.
The answer is probably nobody.
Yeah, and it's being propped up in various places sort of haphazardly. So, yeah.
Yeah. Anything in disrepair is going to start to look creepy. But that brings us, of course, to the ultimate in horror movie houses, the ultimate in haunted house, which
I also have a picture of.
So, of course, we did not talk before doing this, but we all both had the same picture. Yeah. I mean, or I should say two different pictures, but of the same location, which is immediately recognizable, which is the Psycho house.
Yeah. Yeah, so so if you can't picture the Second Empire, but you probably know the Psycho house, right? It's the house behind the motel. That's right there. Just perfect Second Empire.
That's it. It's on top of a hill. It's got the mansard roof. It's got that metal work on the roof that is spindly and looks quite deadly and tetanus, if nothing else, again. It's got a porch and some woodwork, but it all looks kind of not really taken care of, and the paint is peeling a bit. There's these brackets just under the eaves and nice big tall windows with these curtains so that you might see, I don't know, Mrs. Bates perhaps.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, a knife, some shadow of something that'll scare you. And I mean, that house is so iconic. I think if you just see it in silhouette, you immediately think of Psycho. And even if you haven't seen the movie, I think it's still really deeply creepy.
Yeah. One thing too, I think because the silhouette is meant to be sort of that like synecdoche, right? That representative of the entire movie. It doesn't have any trees around it. And there's something about that it's old, but there's nothing natural that's growing close to it that makes it creepier. I don't know why that is.
It is that sense of isolation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Where you're like, well, it's not you're unprotected. You're out.
Yeah.
You know, there's no one will hear you scream again.
Right. Yeah.
And this house itself, probably, I don't know that this is 100% confirmed, but is very likely heavily inspired, if not completely inspired, by one of Edward Hopper's most famous paintings, which is called House by Railroad. It's from 1925. So Psycho was made in 1960, but this painting is from 1925. And if you look at it, it looks so similar to the Psycho house. I would say more sad and less creepy, perhaps.
Yeah, I was going to say the loneliness comes through, though. I mean, because it's Hopper, right?
My teenager says that, I adore Hopper, and have taken my children to see Hopper exhibits. The VMFA had a fantastic one a few years ago.
Yep.
And at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. Sorry, for those of you who are not Virginians, when you go to Richmond, go to the VMFA. It really hits above its weight as a museum. It's really a lovely museum. But so anyway, they had this exhibit on Hopper, and my teenager said that it was, the paintings were all about sad white people. And I'm like,
not right.
I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that's absolutely what Hopper was talking about, was about the isolation of modern life, of industrial life. And this house is next to a railroad on purpose. Like, that is, it's in the title, and it's an important component to that house. Just like I think the Bates house is next to the Bates Motel, and that's what makes it creepy, right? Is again that it's that idea of transience around it, that you're kind of stuck there on your own.
Well, and I think it's also that layering of the modern, right? Because the railroad clearly was built after the house, right? And it kind of imposes itself, like it kind of pushes the house out of the way without ever destroying it. And the same thing with the motel. And the motel, clearly, it's a motel, so it's on a road. So there's that kind of like modernity is coming in and pushing out the old in a way that's not too nice.
Exactly. What I think is interesting about looking at the painting versus the Bates house is that they're very similar. I think overall, as I said, they're both Second Empire. They both have a porch. They both have a prominent tower. But the building itself is less overtly evil, I would say, in that it's more curvy. And so the windows, especially in the roof line, I think give it a little bit more welcoming aspect. It's a little bit less stark than House in Psycho. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, strangely, there's less vegetation around this house in the painting. It looks well cared for, I think. It has light reflecting off of the windows. So there's sunlight in a way that there's kind of never at the Bates Motel and the house. And it's also kind of grayish blue, which somehow makes, I mean, it's not Victorian purple and pink, but it makes it a little cheerier. But,
right.
But sad. It's
sad, right. Sad, but not as creepy.
Yeah.
What I just love about all this is that, like, you look at these Second Empire houses, and they're all somewhere in that continuum of sad to scary. Like, you don't see a Second Empire house and you're like, ooh, cheerful. You know what I mean?
That's so funny. I don't know, because I adore Second Empire, and there's a lot of Second Empire in DC, and I always wanted to live in one, particularly because I was like, I want a house with a turret, right? So I don't necessarily think of those as being lonely, but you're right, they're not like particularly cheery either.
And to be clear, I'm not saying I don't like it. Obviously, this aesthetic really, really appeals to me. The way in which it appeals perhaps the most is just, again, in film. I feel like in film, there have been all sorts of references to Second Empire in one way or another. The one that is closest to my heart probably is in Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a Second Empire house that is then severely wounded into becoming postmodern, and then eventually back to Second Empire. And it's meant to be kind of creepy and old-timey and kind of the peeling wallpaper look, right? And that's when it's happy, right?
Right.
And it's when it's modernized that it's under siege.
But also because I would say, unlike in Psycho, the house in Beetlejuice is a character.
I would agree, 100%.
Like it's sentient, right?
Yeah,
it's, it is happy. Like not just we're perceiving it as happy. Like it is happy.
That makes me want to watch that movie again.
Yeah, me too.
It is the season, so it works.
Well, so I have to say in film that another it's not film, television. See, I'm dating myself. Prior to Beetlejuice, my favorite Second Empire was actually the Addams Family house. And not the Addams Family film, but the TV show. Because I'm old and I used to watch the reruns on TV after school. And I just adored that house, right? Partially because there was always like secret chambers and like things coming out of like, you're like, where did that room come from? Or where did this, so I think it was also kind of a character, but not in the same way as Beetlejuice, right? But it played an oversized role. It wasn't just a backdrop.
Well, and I think all of this is related to the fact that Second Empire and all Victorian styles are all broken up in their uses.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's all related to that same stuff, right? That sense of childlike discovery of all these spaces of like, oh, you've entered the solarium.
Yeah.
You're in the smoking room now. You're in, you've pulled this sconce and now the fireplace is flipped over. And now, I mean, it's a lot of, Batman's lair too, which by the way is under Wayne Manor. And so, it's been represented on all sorts of different ways, but always Victorian, always pointy, always dark, obviously. Yeah. What makes all of these houses so associated with being haunted is that division of the rooms is so central to that Victorian ethos.
Right. And I think that compartmentalization, I know when I was young and I was talking to a colleague and I said, I really want to buy a Victorian house. And her immediate response, and she was about 25 years older than I was, she said, oh my God, why? They're so dark. And I thought, well, what do you mean? They have these huge windows. And she's like, well, they have all those tiny rooms and they're so constricted. And I thought, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, there is that idea of like compartmentalization that then it isn't our kind of open plan aesthetic that we like now. I mean, they have huge windows. Their windows are like 3 times the size of our windows.
Well, and I would argue that open plan aesthetic was something that really has reached its peak. I think we're on the downside of that. And I know, like me, you're not really big into those wide open spaces. I hate them because what it means is, you want to watch TV and someone else wants to read a book, and the person reading a book has to hear you're watching television, and the person who wants lots of light in order to do, cross-stitching has to sit next to the person who has a migraine, and it's like no. Can we stop with these all-purpose spaces? Like, spaces are better when they're cozy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
No, I'm with you. I mean, it does make me feel like my elementary school had what we called the multi-purpose room, right? And it had a stage, and it was where we ate lunch because the cafeteria was attached. And then there were like ropes on the ceiling because it was also our gym. I am not kidding. And it made me feel like that, right? Like where there's too many things crammed into one space, and like cut out a couple of them and it's okay. But like everything in one never works. Right.
Exactly. When you try to do too many things with one space, then it ends up being very bad for all of those uses. Yeah. Right? It's like, a bathroom is better if it's not carpeted. Can we all agree with that? But there's some spaces that are nice when they're carpeted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, So this is one of the joys of the Victorian era is that they were, very tightly wound, let's say, culturally, right? They didn't have a choice, right, at that time period. And so because they, separated out all those uses, so you'd have, you'd be allowed on the porch and then maybe into the entranceway and then maybe an anteroom and then maybe, the sitting room. And so there's this very clear spatial definition between all these rooms. And it can make those spaces claustrophobic and dark, certainly. But I think it also gives you that sense of discovery, right? That you can keep exploring those buildings. It's no accident, I think, that board games and games like Dungeons and Dragons and whatever, they all use those kinds of buildings and not like open plan 1970s buildings, because it'd be like you walk in and there you go. That's the whole thing.
Okay, here's where I admit that so, people have recurring nightmares, right?
Yeah.
And my only recurring nightmare is that I'm in a space that I get lost in, that it has like chambers that I have to crawl in, and suddenly there's an extra space and a chute and I get lost in a maze. Like that is my nightmare, is architecture. Yeah, and they're not always Victorian, but I will say that Victorian does play a role in that because they do. They have like at least the upper middle class houses, right? They have a lot of spaces. Now, I will say if you're thinking about working class houses that are also Second Empire, which there are a bunch, they still have division of space in a way that we don't later on. And there is that like unfolding, right? As you get back to like the more private, the kitchen, the, that kind of stuff. So
that discovery.
Yeah, it's nice.
And a lot of built-ins.
Yeah.
So that also means that you have, a lot more stuff on the walls. You'll probably have wallpaper too with flocking, lots of textures all over the place.
Flowers, floral everywhere.
And you'll see faces in there because pareidolia or however that's pronounced. And then, they'll follow you with their eyes that aren't actually there. You'll have also probably old fixtures, maybe old gas fixtures or whatever that are still there that let off some light, but also a lot of shadow. And so again, like, this time period just ends up being so conducive to that creepy feeling, but also the feeling of discovery. And also, sometimes that feeling of, under the roof in the eaves, you're reading a book and it's super cozy and it feels very, like you're, drinking your tea under a blankie and it's just lovely.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I like that.
Although, okay. One of my big, so this is not a haunted house. It's a haunted building, which is the hotel from The Shining.
Okay, I have that as well. Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%.
So I am a longtime Stephen King fan, and I read The Shining as a child, which probably not the best idea, but I have multiple memories with that hotel in all sorts of different ways. First of all, the incredible style of the carpet, which is just so incredibly creepy and not at all Victorian.
It's kind of like a casino, I'll be honest.
Yes, very much so. And it's based on a hotel, a real hotel called the Stanley Hotel. It's in Colorado. Of course, I've been there. I went with my husband a few years ago, and it's beautiful, but definitely it has that, like, I think it's early 20th century kind of creepiness to it. It's just really big and like it's isolated. It's in the mountains. Now, the thing though is I think the reason that this movie and that hotel and the whole thing is so incredibly ingrained in my head is that the first time I saw that movie, I was maybe 14 years old. I was at a friend's house on Long Island and there was a summer storm. I'm not making this up, okay? There was a summer storm and we're literally under the roof with this small little 15-inch old school TV. And this friend of mine had a boyfriend. And so they went off and started making out somewhere else in the house. And so I'm under the roof watching this really scary movie. And it's like this storm outside with branches hitting the window, the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't stop watching the movie now because I'm really scared. And anyway, it was a fantastic experience, super creepy. And again, being under a roof with exposed rafters in this house, again, was definitely part of that experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's interesting to me is I did not remember I remembered interiors from The Shining. I've only seen it maybe twice. And so when I was like, well, of course, the hotel from The Shining. And I looked at it and I was like, it doesn't feel as creepy as I thought it would from the outside. It's not Second Empire. It actually, it's symmetrical, it's white, it's all these things. But then I started to look about where it is. And I think it's that isolation.
It's the isolation.
I mean,
absolutely.
It's just like we were talking about with the other ones. It's not abandoned, but it does feel like nobody's going to help you if anything happens, which is, of course, the whole point of the story, right? There's...
Yeah. Well, and the endless hallways are very much a part of the scariness, right? Somehow that movie made tricycles scary, which is a choice. I mean, that you got to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
I would like to talk about the Disney Haunted Mansions.
Yes.
I am completely fascinated by the Disney Haunted Mansions. So for those of you who are not Disney people, well, there are some, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So Disney has had this attraction in all of its parks, and that's the part that's really interesting. In all of its parks, it has an attraction. It's not always called the same thing. Sometimes it's called the Phantom Manor. Sometimes it's called the Haunted Mansion. But it's a ride, an attraction, I think, more than a ride.
Yeah. Well, if
it
you
is
look
a ride.
it up, they say it's a ride.
Yeah. So basically you walk in and then there's like this little teaser thing, which is kind of scary and spooky and fabulous. And then you keep walking a little bit more inside, and then you go into these little like pods, and you can sit, I think it's 2, maybe 3 maximum. And this isn't like a roller coaster, right? You're not doing anything that's physically scary or physically demanding. You're just sitting. But it's creepy and fun, and there's songs, and there's lots of cool special effects to show, creepy things in this mansion. And that's it. It's really
I mean, it's just like any haunted house at a carnival, only Disney's doing it, so it's like amazing and over the top.
Right. Graphics and stuff, the effects are really, really cool. It just hits the right note between a little bit creepy, but not so scary that kids are really gonna like recoil. It's not vulgar at all. There's no blood.
Yeah.
Right. It's just really, really well calibrated, I would say. The thing that really fascinates me about that ride is the inside of the ride doesn't really change from place to place, right? So I've been to three of them. I've been to the one in California, the one in Florida, and the one in Paris. I have not been to the other 2. But the inside of the ride is identical, but the outside is not. So let me rephrase that. The inside of the ride is identical, other than the fact that in Paris, they do it in French and in English. And they just kind of switch back and forth, which is kind of funny too. But the thing that really completely fascinates me about this ride is that the outside is meant to look like a haunted house, and it's part of the name, right? Haunted house or Phantom Manor or whatever. And the interpretation of what that means has been changed drastically in the different parks. So the original one is this one. It's the one in LA in Disneyland. And this one's quite old. I believe it's from 1960. I'm going to pull up the date right now. 1969. And it is not at all Second Empire. So do you want to describe it?
Yeah. So I looked this up, and it's a mishmash combo of a Greek revival plantation house. So it has like a big columns and a pediment on top, and like this 2-story balcony on the front, but then running around the sides, it has like this almost Islamic ironwork, but it feels a little like
Spanish
New Orleans
to me.
Oh yeah,
New Orleans.
Yeah, it felt New Orleans to me. And then if you look up further, it has a cupola, and I mean, I looked at it and I was like, this is a nightmare just as an architectural expression. But
I looked it up online because I was like, this is not good interpretation of historic architecture. Like, this is not a thing that ever existed. It's like this Franken mansion, really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a horror. It's a haunted mansion in more ways than one. Yeah. But they call it, and I quote, and I hate it, but I'm just going to tell you anyway. They call it antebellum. So the idea, I guess, is that it's meant to really hark back to plantation. I think that's really what they're going for.
It does have a plantation feel.
So again, it is somehow like upsetting, I think, if you're an architectural historian, because it's just not architecturally correct. Like it's just mashing things together that don't really belong together, and some of which are really not from the same era. In particular, the brackets under the eaves are just not, and the Spanish ironwork, it doesn't work with the Greek revival. Like, none of it works with each other. But you could see how like it just projects that very plantation house aesthetic, which a plantation house totally
scary.
Is very scary. So that's a totally reasonable interpretation of scary. I just wish it wasn't architecturally incorrect. I feel like it could be more architecturally correct and still absolutely give you, plantation house vibes.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it I feel like you can get the willies from an actual plantation house.
It's not hard.
And you don't need to dress it up, but
yeah. Anyway, so that's the first one. Then There are actually two which are identical, are almost exactly identical. The first one is in the Magic Kingdom in Florida. So that one's just a little bit later, 1971. And then the other one is in Tokyo from 1983. And those two are the same. It's a Gothic revival. It looks like a castle. So it's brick. It's got, heavy masonry, and it's got some obelisks on the roofline and prominent chimney pots, and it's asymmetrical, and it's got like a glass enclosed space on the side and all of that. I think it's the least successful of all the haunted mansions, and that's because to me, this is where the materiality of the stone doesn't work, even with the Disney skills. It just looks like it's made of plastic and foam.
Yeah, I would say it does not look solid. I would agree with that. I mean, it looks like a castle, but there's not that foreboding. And I thought, you could do a Romanesque revival, and you could
I would love that.
I know, I would love it too, but it would also be super scary, right? Like, Romanesque revival has these, Richardsonian Romanesque.
We can agree to disagree. You could call it Romanesque revival.
It has these dark stones, and it has what we call castellations on the roof, right? So it has like a castle-like form, and it has these big, heavy arches, and something about it makes it feel both protective and like it might fall in at any moment. And I think that could be really creepy. And this is kind of like, oh, it's a nice castle.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Well, and in Richardsonian Romanesque, some of them have that ridge on the roof that looks like the backbone of a dinosaur or something, or a dragon. Yep. Like, it looks so much cooler. And this, I'm like, it's fine. Like, it doesn't, again, maybe if it was trying for stone instead of brick, it would look creepier. I feel like brick is less creepy.
Yeah. To me, I look at this, and part of it, I think, is that glass, like solarium thing on the corner, which actually has a lot of that pointy ironwork, but it doesn't look nearly as foreboding as it does. I feel like I'm going to see somebody like Great Gatsby come out with like cocktails and sit on the the patio instead of like, ghosts.
Yeah. Someone will say something very cutting at me, but that's okay. I can handle that. Yeah, I wonder if this is just based on something like Biltmore. And I feel like, Biltmore is considered very haunted looking, and I don't see it because it's too well maintained.
Yeah. Well, and also it's chateau-esque, and it doesn't feel, I don't know, there's something about a chateau that doesn't say like creepy things live here.
Yeah. Again, there might be snobs to be mean to you, but it's not the same as, a ghost is going to haunt you or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, which brings me to the one in Paris, which I believe is going to look very familiar.
It's quite similar, I would say, to the Bates house.
It is literally the Bates house. Like, honestly, you guys, and again, I will put this on the website so you can see, but no, for real, it's the Bates house. It's almost exactly identical. It's got the central tower. It is definitely Second Empire. This is picture perfect Second Empire. It's got the ironwork, which is really highlighted. It's got like the distressed paint and, the very tall windows. And it just looks just like the Bates house.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually, I would say it's creepier than the Bates house. Something about it has those shutters. So the windows are, rounded at the top, and then it has the shutters that are actually functional. So they are rounded as well. And there's something about that looks creepy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It looks like it's going to creak and like make noise and stuff. Like it looks super, super creepy. I like it a lot. I feel like it's a great representation of haunted. When I think of haunted, that's exactly what I think of. And I mean, again, I don't want to say that they plagiarized Psycho, but like they plagiarized Psycho.
I mean, there's some subtle differences.
It's more monumental. It feels bigger. I think it's because the porch is smaller, and then it has side porches too.
Also, actually, I would say it's more like the Hopper house.
Yeah,
like the
it has more of those curves.
Yeah.
So it's really this one's my favorite.
Yeah.
Although I've never been to the last one, which I've never been to the Tokyo one either, but it's the same as the one in Florida, so that one doesn't count. But there's another one, a newer one, which is in Hong Kong, and it looks like this. So please describe this because it is incredible.
you're going to have to jump in here because I'm not even sure where to start. So it is, let's see, it's Queen Anne.
They're calling it exotic revival.
Yeah, I mean that's probably a good description. So it's Queen Anne, and that it's a wood-like structure. I mean, it's Disney, so I don't know what it's made out of, but it has an incredible amount of sort of encrusted detail, like all of what everybody kind of calls gingerbread, right? Like all
it's
of these.
It's not technically called gingerbread, you guys.
I know.
But,
yes, yeah, but that's what people call.
Yeah. It's called. The words are.
Yeah.
Pardon me. The words are super ugly. The actual technical terms, instead of gingerbreading, are either verge board or barge board. Take your pick.
And it's jigsaw cut, and it had just imagine all of that fine little bits of woodwork, right, is on every column, on every post. It all has a color scheme that's 12 different colors, so it's expensive to maintain. It has 3 different towers. So one of the towers has an onion dome that's multicolored. One of them has a mansard roof with 3 dormers sticking out of it, so it looks like a hat with a bunch of stuff coming out of it. And then the one next to it, I can't even tell what's going on there.
It's almost like a pagoda or something. It's crazy looking. Yeah,
it's multi-level, and then that one has almost Islamic-inspired windows, so they sort of have a rounded top and then a point, and then they sort of come down to make a slim window. There's a projecting bay. There's all kinds of finials, which are basically pointy ornaments on the top of roof. So yeah, it's one of these things okay, so imagine somebody said, draw a house with lots of decoration, and then they came back and they're like, no, more. No, more. No, absolutely more. Oh, here, use more colors. Absolutely more. You just couldn't stop yourself from adding things to it. That's pretty much what's going on.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of the Carson House in California, but more.
Yeah.
So the Carson House is a Queen Anne house. It's I think technically called Eastlake, which is the most ornate form of Queen Anne. And it was built by a guy who made his fortune on lumber, so makes sense. And it's from that time period, 1860s-ish. And this building in Hong Kong is like that, but number one, dialed even higher, which I didn't even know was possible. The Carson House is pretty crazy in and of itself. But number two, what I really love about it is that it just takes all the cultures and just puts them in a blender.
Yeah.
Right? And it's both too much, but it feels like it fits as a whole. It feels like there's a real design aesthetic here. That's one of the reasons I really like this one as opposed to the one that's both in Florida and Tokyo. Because that one just feels these kind of castle-like houses are kind of creepy. Let's just use that. And that one doesn't evoke anything to me. You know
what I think it is? Those two look like stage sets.
Yeah.
And this one looks totally ridiculous. But if you told me, oh, yeah, this is in, Oregon or something, I was like, oh,
yeah,
sure.
I would totally believe it, right? Because it's like the Winchester house.
Yeah. I have that one up on my screen because I was like, oh, the Winchester Mystery House is totally a haunted house.
So, listeners, you might not be familiar with the Winchester Mystery House. And, it's literally called the Winchester Mystery House, usually.
Yeah, so the story behind it is that it was built by a woman who inherited, and correct me if I'm wrong, inherited the fortune from the Winchester repeating rifle. Is that right? So, basically...
I think she was his widow.
Okay.
I think so.
That sounds right. So, basically, she felt that the deaths that caused, the money that she got from something that caused so much death was bringing her basically hauntings. And so she kept building more rooms in order to kind of outrun the ghost that she felt of the people who were killed by this rifle, which, there's I guess probably a million dissertations written on this in psychology, but as an architectural historian, I'm kind of intrigued, right? This idea that you could somehow encapsulate your feelings in a space. I'm intrigued by it. But the building itself, maybe you should try to give a description of this one to the listeners.
Sure. So it's also, in the Victorian mold. But in this case, I would call it stick style over anything else probably, although it's got some Queen Anne stuff too. It's got some turned wood that's very Queen Anne. It's got different colors. but the colors are a little bit more subdued than you would expect from a Queen Anne building. It's also less vertical, but part of that is because she just kept adding to it. And she apparently kept adding to it until she died.
That's what I understand, yeah.
And there are rooms that lead nowhere, staircases that lead nowhere. I mean, it's a brain in, a disturbed brain in building form.
Right.
So, yeah, I would probably call this stick style, which is kind of, another version of that kind of wood forward, lots of wood detailing, lots of roof lines, very often lots of asymmetry, which you see here from that same time period, right? The 1860s, 1870s, 1880s, that kind of Victorian era. And yeah, it doesn't look super creepy from the outside, honestly.
No.
Because it's not overwhelming, because it's more horizontal. And I feel like that's a big aspect of why buildings look creepy, is if they loom. And if they don't loom, or if they don't have weird proportions, they might look fine from the outside, and it's only on the inside that they would look creepy. And then all you really need is lots of heavy wood and some wallpaper that looks like the eyes are following you, and that's it. That's all you need, really.
I love this because this actually reminds me, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was kind of getting back to film is, I think because I spent so long in D.C., the Exorcist house.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I many times went to Georgetown. You had to look at the Exorcist steps. That's what you talk about when you look at it. And I don't know if you've ever seen or looked at the house, but the house is really not, well, I'll show you. So this is the house, and then this is the set of stairs.
Yeah, it looks like nothing.
Yeah.
It looks like a brick, urban house. It's 2 stories. You can't see the roof. It's got a parapet. The stairs are very narrow and scary, because it looks like you could take a bad tumble, which, yeah. But other than that, it's not scary at all.
But I think it's related to that idea of tall, thin.
Yeah.
There is something about that proportion that's a little unnerving. And so the staircase, you look at it, and even if you didn't see the film, I think you would look at those and be like, that looks precarious, right?
Yeah, especially in that photo, because it looked like they just had a rain.
Yes.
And so it looks like, I don't trust my shoes enough. So no thanks.
Yeah, and there are railings on either side, and it still looks like, I would totally slide down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things I was wondering as I was thinking on this topic is, what makes a space look haunted, and what are kind of the difficulties in making that work? So for instance, in an urban environment, I think it's harder to make a space from the outside in particular look haunted. The only ones that I could really think of off the top of my head was the building in Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. Both of them have a haunted building. And in that case, it's the setback that gives it that kind of looming quality, which is true of many New York City skyscrapers, right? A lot of them have that setback and have that kind of Art Deco, Gothic kind of aesthetic that just makes it look, tall, dark, and pointy.
Yeah, I was going to say the pointy silhouette.
Yeah. That's pretty much all you need. But I feel with modern architecture, it's much, much harder to make something look creepy. And I was trying to think of examples off the top of my head. Did you have fun? Did you find some too?
So I found one.
I found one too.
Okay, I'll let you go first.
Oh, well, mine is not so much. Well, it's a movie that I saw, and that's why I could think of it. And it's the movie Ex Machina, which is technically not really about haunting, but it is very creepy. It's a very creepy movie. And it's a very modern looking building, and you can look it up. It's in the landscape, and from the outside, it just looks, it kind of juts out into nature around it, and it's got lots of trees. It's very green, very verdant landscape. But the idea is that it's totally hermetically sealed. And so there's windows to the outside, and they're floor to ceiling. But once you're inside, you're like in a tomb. And then the vast majority of the action in the movie takes place in basically the basement. I mean, it takes place underground. So you end up having a lot of the same connotations, I think, that Victorian architecture has, but just kind of reversed, right? So it's, you can see the outside, but you can't get there. And when you're down in those basement areas, then the space is again very enclosed and very separated by use, right? So you can close a door and then you can't get to the other room, and you've got that sense of separation, which is also there in Victorian architecture. But it doesn't look scary from the outside. I don't think so anyway. It's really only, once the story unfolds that you're like, oh, like it's even worse because nature's right here, the escape is right here, but you can't get there because it's hermetically sealed. So that's the only one I could really think of where I was like, oh man, that's some scary stuff right there.
Okay, so this is very telling. In Googling images, it doesn't really show the outside. There's only one image that I'm getting of like a man looking out a whole like kind of glass wall at a really gorgeous scenery, but there's a ton of clearly the images of the basement that you're describing. And it looks like kind of a cross between like like if Logan's Run had a museum, right? It's like white with like these running lights down the side that are just kind of glowing, and it's got like a red carpet and like white walls where things are kind of appearing out of it, like magical almost.
Yeah, we should talk about Logan's Run, but that's a separate issue. That's not haunted. That's just dystopian.
Right.
Fantastic, but dystopian.
So for my modern example, the Poltergeist house.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, listeners, if you saw the film, it's just a suburban snout house. Like it's got a big garage. It is faux,
it's like faux timbering. Tudor revival.
Yeah.
But like not really. But it's like suburban.
Yeah.
It's just suburban with Tudor like stapled on.
Yeah, it's like dressed up, kind of general suburban house, like nothing special, which is why I think it's so creepy when you've seen the film because it, becomes this portal to the other world with like, the cemetery and everything else. But yeah, there's nothing about it that's that interesting, and this is the actual house, as they say.
It's a real house.
Yeah, and when you look like at Google Earth, basically it's a whole neighborhood of houses that look just like that, which is why it's kind of creepy. It's because like it is just like everything else.
Yeah, you could be walking into a horror movie and you don't know. And I mean, that's the conceit in a lot of horror movies,
right.
like Nightmare on Elm Street. Right, which is it's called Elm Street because every town in America has an Elm Street.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I just really think that's really clever because if it was on Main Street, you'd be like, okay, but Main Street's where all the businesses are.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But Elm Street, that implies suburban and safe, which it's just really clever. I like that a lot.
I also, this is not a modern house style, but I thought it was really interesting because I couldn't remember what the house looked like. When I was a kid, I read the book first, and then I saw the film, The Amityville Horror House. And I couldn't remember. Like, I had no image in my mind of what it looked like. And you pull it up, and it's like a Dutch colonial revival. Like, it's very unassuming.
Which I don't think of as particularly, scary.
No.
Dutch revival's like, I expect to eat something beige there.
Well, I think of like, Jell-O molds.
Yeah.
And things. It's adorable. Like you look at the pictures and you're like, I would buy that. I like that house. I would live there. I don't know. There's nothing all that chilly about it.
The one that I felt that same thing was the Lizzie Borden house.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that looks like.
I think it's a Greek revival. I should look it up.
Yeah.
I think it's just a like pretty little Greek revival house, and you're like, oh. That's nice. I would live there.
Yeah, it looks like probably everything else. So the Lizzie Borden house, listeners, is a bed and breakfast and museum. So if you want to go stay there, you can. I am not quite that adventurous, but
just stay away from axes. That's all. You'll be fine. All right. Well. All this to say that the number one haunted house is still Second Empire. Yeah. I just don't think anything competes.
Yeah, I would agree.
Then after that, what is horrifying to you might depend on your personal fears in life, I guess. But it's almost always going to be Gothic. I mean, I still think, it's going to be, Second Empire at the top, then whatever Gothic underneath, Victorian, Tudor even, or some other version of tall, dark, and pointy again. And then after that is all the other stuff. So, I mean, there should be extra points given for any horror haunted kind of place that doesn't lean on that trope constantly, right? I feel like there's a special place there for the plantation house. I think those are plenty creepy on their own. Those also don't get, bonus points. But I think anything other than those should absolutely get bonus points for like managing to be creepy if they don't have those features, especially if they don't have those divided up inner spaces, right? If you manage to make a horror movie haunty, creepy, right? We're not talking like gore and stuff. That's not what we're talking about here, right? If you manage to do that creepy, spooky kind of, October house, and it doesn't have those features of the Second Empire at all, I'd be interested to see those examples and see how they work, because I think that's really much, much harder when you can't rely on not great lighting and lots of shadows and lots of corners with stuff hiding in them.
I was going to say, you know what it is? It's one word to me, secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of houses have secrets. They have secret chambers. They have secret spaces. They have things hidden behind stuff. And like maybe they're not all terrible evil, but they're just things are hidden.
Right. So listeners, if you can find something in like, 1970s ranch with, again, wide open spaces that manages to be super creepy, we want to hear it.
Definitely.
If you can find something that's well lit and, doesn't have any creepy portraits that follow you as you walk around the room, we want to hear about those.
Extra points if it's bubblegum pink.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely much more exciting, I think. Well, this was delightful.
Yes.
Now I want to go eat some candy and walk around and crunch on leaves with my feet, not with my teeth.
Yeah, I want to have something, I'm not a pumpkin spice latte, but I do like cinnamon stuff. So I want to have like a cinnamon donut or something, something warm and spicy.
Oh, man. One of those apple cider donut things. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay. You win.
All right.
Let's do that. And next month we will talk about, I don't know, something else.
We'll have fun. I mean, we're going to somehow celebrate the holiday spirit because that is coming up in November. So look forward to talking with you then.
You too. Well, bye, Rae.
Bye, Andi.